Hey, folks, how's it going?
Good.
Yes, very good. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. I feel like I'm on the world's greatest talk show right now. Wow, this is very exciting. Okay, well, cool. So, thanks to everyone for watching, and we're definitely going to get several more people coming in here pretty soon. More than several, I imagine. Yeah, and thanks to you two for being here as well. So, this is the last live stream for our series for our Big Spring fundraiser, which has been really fun. The theme has been Trans Joy, which I think has been also a really, really joyful thing to be part of. These live streams have been just so much fun, and I feel like they've been the best staff meetings ever. I've just been like totally just like I just feel like I've been thinking a lot about community, and I've really enjoyed hearing everyone's perspective. So yeah, so thank you all so much for some already really lovely times here we spent on these live streams, and I'm really excited about this last one. So our first one was what is trans joy, and then our second one was creating trans joy, and this one's celebrating trans joy. So that's very exciting. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but I would love to throw it to Nikki, who was also really, really excited about this theme.
Yes, I was. Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki. My pronouns are she, her. Pretty cool to be here. I agree, Charlie. I only got to be part of the last one and then this one. And yeah, I love this theme. We had multiple conversations about this theme. And when the news came down just a couple days ago and has been continuing, this news cycle right now feels pretty dastardly. And so we had a moment where we were second guessing ourselves. Should we do this in this second, at this moment in our country? And we decided, yes. In fact, we felt like we needed to double down because as stressful and tense and frightening as the things that are happening right now are, our whole point in this organization is to help families find this pathway to joy, to finding the joy in their families and in their situation. And so it seemed perfect that we would, like rebels, we're in defiance of everything that is happening right now in this country. Doggone it, this is important, and it's what we do every day, all day, for years and years and years. So it actually ended up making perfect sense.
Yeah, and it's so funny that it's also May the 4th, right? So we our last live stream was very much focused on that, but yeah, that sort of feels very right about like fighting for justice and what is right. And I also really like that you said the word dastardly, that all of these like attempts against bodily autonomy are dastardly, because when I think of the word dastardly, I sort of feel like a criminal that is just being sort of unnecessarily mean and really like speaking for nobody but acting like a lot of people. Like the word dastardly feels very right, and so that feels like very correct, especially just given the large amount of support that trans people and their families have. And so dastardly is definitely the right word. Anyway, we'll talk more about the theme later, but I also want to introduce Aiden, who was also on our first live stream, which was really fun. And as I put on the Instagram post about this, there is a 70% chance of cats for this live stream. So maybe you'll up or lower that percentage, Aiden. But anyway, Aiden, hi, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Charlie. Good to be here. Yeah, I have to say, you found a D word from Nikki's intro, dastardly, but the other one I found was defiance.
Yeah.
And I just, I've been puzzling on this trans joy theme for quite some time, and pondering the relationship to joy. And again, especially right now, and thinking about defiance as being a part of that equation is really something that's going to be percolating for quite some time. The concept of joy and finding joy in our lives, there's no way it's just a moment of happiness. It's not just that. It's got these layers that are pretty significant. So I think I've been finding some connections there that I was surprised to find as I've been having it bubble around in my brain.
I'm also really, I've been also having a lot more thoughts than I expected. Like I knew that I was going to enjoy talking about trans joy, but I have been really amazed at how much it has really taken over my brain cycle for the past few days, because I've been really like thinking about these conversations. So yeah, yeah, thanks for so much. And Rachel, do you want to introduce yourself and kind of kick us off?
Yes, I have a special guest with me today. We talked about special guests coming. BB8 has joined and will be here for this stream. So thank you for allowing BB8 to come. We are here as our spring fundraiser, Give Big, and we have, well, 12 minus 4 is 8. We have 8 hours left of our fundraiser, and we wanted to announce where we are at. And Charlie, did you want to do your? Am I just you're on mute?
Right. I was going to say I'm not ready for that. Well, how about we?
Well,
wait a minute, or we could do a drum roll.
Yeah.
But nothing's ready to update yet.
Oh, well, it's I think that's accurate. The 44%. I was just going to announce the amount.
Oh, yeah.
So you could do a drum roll, and BB8 wants to help too.
Yeah. So let's do a drum roll for the new total, because it's gone up since the last live stream.
Yes.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. Ooh,
yeah.
How fun. Okay.
Yes.
So everybody on cam, drum roll, and then if you are on Facebook, then you could type or you could.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so that would be actually really funny if I was going through my news feed and I saw a bunch of people typing on a live stream. I would click. So I don't know. Maybe type something that you think is going to get your friends' attention when they're scrolling on their Facebook.
A drum roll.
Yeah. To get people on this. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so
type an onomatopoeic drum roll.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Everybody roll your drums.
And then you announce it.
Okay.
Okay, ready, set.
26,385. Yay!
Excellent.
So
every dollar counts too.
If you want to donate, I just put the link in the chat. Thank you, everybody. We are trying to raise $60,000 before midnight. So we got a ways to go, but we're hopeful. BB8 is here. We've got some other special guests that might show up later. So please help us out with our fundraiser and help us also talk about joy, because as we've talked about, joy is so important to who we are and what we're doing right now. Joy is important in our work. Joy is important in our lives, and defiantly showing joy is vital right now. We need it.
We do. And I noticed there's a comment on Facebook from Duncan. Duncan is a long-time friend of ours, and Duncan, it's really heartwarming to see your comment. Duncan was involved for years, right, in the conference in Gender Odyssey, which is where all of this work started years ago, with Aiden defiantly creating space where he and other people who had similar experiences could talk about their lives in a meaningful way. I mean, that's where this all started, right? Oh, sorry. Are you muted? I totally stopped talking for you, but that was over 20 years ago.
Well, I mean, when I think of Duncan, I think pre-Duncan as well. And a shout out needs to go to Duncan's partner, Krista, who day one, as an ally, a partner, and a crucial member of our community. The courage that Krista showed along the way in those early days was pretty phenomenal. So she helped create community where none existed, including a listserv. Dang it, am I going to remember the name of it? Duncan, help me. But anyway, a Yahoo listserv that pulled together a segment of trans community that hadn't connected locally before. So Duncan knows how to pick them.
Yeah. It feels like this organization has been sort of an island of rebellion from the beginning, from the very start. I mean, am I remembering correctly, Aidan, that was how where it all came from for you, was that desire to create a space that was safe and joyful and honored, people who had shared experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I had already extracted every ounce of thoughts and wisdom from the handful of trans people that I knew locally, and was just desperate to know more. One person I knew had a 25-year head start on me, and I'm like, tell me this, tell me that. I mean, I had napkins that I would write questions on as I was moving throughout my day, and just some of the folks in my particular, we had a mini support group, and many of them were kind of just making their way on the journey as well. And I just thought, well, actually, I can't claim the idea, because it was actually someone in California, a fellow named Mike Hernandez, who was in town visiting, and he said he had put together a conference, and that I had gone to, I think maybe my first one ever, and it was really powerful. And he said, well, I think the next one should be in Seattle. And if you've heard me tell this story before, you'll remember this detail, because that dude made his eye twinkle somehow, like this little sparkle, and I just felt like, oh my gosh, is this a message from the universe? He says, I think the next one should be in Seattle. And so, naive fool that I was, I thought, okay, let's do it. And it was really quite a journey. And I love this story. Speaking of joy, there was one committee member who has since passed away. Really, really lovely guy, and he was just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Some people viewed him more as a naysayer, but what he did was say, well, what about this? And who's looking after that? And what about this? And what about that? And all these things that nobody else was thinking of. And so he was a little bit of a thorn in the side for some, but I was grateful for his presence, for thinking of all these things. So the fun part about his engagement was, I'm telling you, that dude did not believe we could pull it off. And the conference started probably, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And about midway on Saturday, I'll never forget it. I can see him in the lobby, running up to me. He goes, I think we're going to pull this off. So I said, yeah, I think we are. And little did I know, how pivotal that conference was for so many people, for the community in Seattle, for myself personally. And it had, a fraction of the programming that Gender Odyssey had on its last year. So, wow, what a journey. Pretty significant. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, Charlie, I thought you unmuted. So over the years, when my family became involved with gender diversity and Gender Odyssey, and I said this earlier today, that the evolution, the revolution in our lives, just, it felt like everything changed, everything turned over in a sense, and that being able just to be in shared space together with people who understood what I was going through, and who my child recognized were, other people like him, I've said it before, and I'm happy to say it over and over and over. He, at that point in his life, he would have crawled across broken glass to be at Gender Odyssey because of how significant it was to be surrounded by other trans and non-binary people and see adults and see kids and see their families and see their spouses and their, aunties and loved ones. And it was profound. It was really profound. And in that, at that time, it was very early in us understanding what was happening, what was going on with my son. And everything felt intense and stressful and scary. Like I felt like every decision I was having to make was the hardest decision I had ever made in my life. And everything felt like stepping into a chasm. It just was, everything felt like jeopardy. It was so intense. And honestly, just knowing that I wasn't the only one relieved so much pressure. It means so much to look across the table or look on a screen and see other people next to you who are listening to your story and shaking, nodding along and saying, yeah, oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I was there too. Yes. That it changes everything. Because then you realize, okay, this family's been on a very similar journey and they're okay. And their kid is in the next room laughing and yucking it up with all the other teens. And it's okay. We're going to be fine. And I feel like that is the number one job of trans families all the time. So even though like this is this intense moment, this fundraiser is this intense moment where we get to talk about it a lot, but it really is at the core of everything we do.
Mm-hmm. Nikki, I was at your place with some other people. I can't remember what was going on, but there was some crafting going on, and I was meeting some people, and I'll never forget this one person. Two different people. One, I was having a really lovely conversation with somebody that might have been a minister or something like that. And then they had a partner there also who at some point just said, geez, Aiden, aren't you done talking about gender? And, whoever it was, they said something like, well, after, 2 years or however long, I'm just up to here with it. And I'll just never forget it because I thought, well, okay, let's take a look at this question. Am I done talking about gender? I realized this isn't talking about gender. This is really human connection and talking about things that really matter in life. And I said, no, are you kidding? Because this is the way that I can have connections on a level with someone that I might not be able to get to for months or years, and we can do it right away. For example, I'm just spending time talking with your partner and we're going deep and gender is our vehicle. So no, I don't get tired of talking about it.
Yeah. I can't say that I do either. I mean, I don't think I'm alone. That surely most people about once a year sort of stop and look around and say, yeah, am I doing the things that I want to be doing? Is this direction I want to keep going? Am I, do I need to make a change in my life? Or maybe other people don't do that, but I do it. I do it, just about once a year. And I'm not ready to be done with this organization. I'm not ready to be done with this work. I feel like we still have so much more. Yeah. So, yeah. Charlie's our newest staff member, actually. We're pretty fortunate that he was like loose in the wild. We found him. We're like, Charlie.
I have never thought of freelancing as running loose in the wild, but I love to think, because I do. So I'm the new communications and media manager, and I was doing digital and communications consulting. And so I love the idea that I was like a feral cat with a keyboard, just running amok in alleys, giving people advice about how to write tweets. That's so funny. Yeah, the timing really worked out. Yeah, I'm so. I've a series of lucky instances really brought me here, and that I was just saying yesterday. One speaking of Gender Odyssey, that so Aiden and I know each other from like just a couple of years ago. We've been in the same spaces, and
It was more than a couple.
2015. I
That's
guess
more than a couple.
I just turned 32
That's 7.
today, and I'm really just wow. Time is really interesting. Okay, that's really okay. We'll come back to that. We'll process that later. Anyway.
Right.
Okay, so like the better part of a decade. Okay, that's pretty cool. So Aiden and I have known each other for a bit. Anyway, so I didn't know that Gender Odyssey had changed the name. I didn't know that we had evolved into like a new structure. And so then I got connected through trans families through a couple of different degrees. And then once I started investigating the organization more, I was like, oh, I know trans families because I know Aiden. And I was saying to Aiden, it was like when you're driving in the city and you're like, I know where I am. Oh, my friend lives around the corner. I was like, oh, I know where I am, So the luck on this was there. So yeah, really excited to be here. I don't know.
Can I just invite you, if you're willing? This is completely out of the blue. I did not prep you for this. So if you need to like pass that stick, you can do that. So when we were working together before we were able to make you an offer, we were just working together, and you always showed up with so much excitement. And I'm just wondering if you could say, I mean, what were your thoughts about getting involved in an organization like this? Because for some folks, they feel a bit of pause because so much of our work is really directed towards the people who surround and support trans youth, right? Rather than, we do direct services for trans youth, but the thing that we do differently and with a lot of fervor is support the people around the youth. So were you concerned about that at all? Or what were your thoughts about that?
Gosh, answering this question, I feel like I want to tie in so many threads from, I don't even know what days I've talked to you all on these incredible live streams. But so one thing that I have been thinking about a lot is when you, Nikki, were talking about what it was like to enter a space where like everybody understood and you didn't have to explain yourself and you just felt very at peace. And I've been in a lot of very trans exclusive or trans heavy spaces. And so one thing that's kind of funny about my professional career is that I started out doing, as I was mentioning, I'm going to stop saying as I mentioned last night because it doesn't really matter. Anyway, so when I came out, just like a lot of other trans people, I was sort of thrust into being an advocate because it was either that or everything was going to be wrong. So you may as well just Google and find out what resources there are in whatever year it is, and just hope that like, your college or your high school or like whoever, your boss will like change the policies or whatever. So I sort of like fell into doing LGBTQ activism after I came out as trans in college. And so I worked at a couple of different big national organizations that were LGBTQ and trans focused. And then after like employment was like sort of shifting around, and I was thinking, I think I want to give it a shot to do something that isn't related to being LGBTQ, because it's just a lot, right? I mean, because you think about what's happening, good and bad during the day, and then it's going to happen later at night too. And so I was like, I think I just want to try to turn my brain off and just do something that matters but isn't quite so close to home. So I started working, doing some election stuff, and doing social media for some elections, and it just I wasn't into it. I mean, it was like important work, like I got to run the social media for a Medicaid expansion campaign, and I was on Medicaid for a while, so that was like very, very exciting, but that was about as personal as those things got. And I just really missed doing this kind of work. And so I would find myself, I told my friends this all the time, that I would be like when Elliot Page came out. When Elliot Page came out, I was like, I wish I was writing the tweet. You know what I mean? Like I could write my own tweet, but I really miss being in those queer LGBTQ trans spaces and having like really exciting things happen. And so I was really missing the community. And so now I'm so happy to be back. And, I was, so sort of tying together a couple other things. It's interesting being right from the perspective of a trans person working for an organization that supports other people around trans folks. It kind of reminds me of I'm a camp counselor at a summer camp for trans kids, and my first summer there, I've been doing this for maybe 5 years, and my first summer there, I sort of lost it on like day 3 for like an hour because I was like feeling so overwhelmed looking at all of these happy trans kids and like all running around and like playing tag, and all the time like we would all forget that we were all trans and have a good laugh about it, and like all these just like beautiful moments. And I was feeling a lot of emotions about being this trans adult who came out relatively young. I mean, speaking when I was 18, but like I mean it's still not quite when I was 8. And so I felt like I really gained the ability to recognize that like I was supporting my community in a way that I was being supported, in that like working with youth and working with families and like just like interrelationship stuff really fills up my tank. Like, but it's also not about me because I'm a camp counselor, right? I'm the person telling these kids to put their shoes on. I'm not the person having the big experience. So this sort of feels like that, like, so I'm just like, I'm supporting other people in a similar journey. And just like I feel honored that a camper is going to let me sit next to him while he makes a friendship bracelet and talks to me about like his new friends that he met at the lake. I'm really excited to be able to support these families in their journeys, and maybe work one-on-one with some folks on different projects. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Wow. We feel really fortunate to have you here.
Yeah.
So we're grateful that you took us up on our offer.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
Really grateful, really grateful. And you've been pivotal in helping pull together this campaign with Rachel. Rachel, of course, being our development manager, who's the brains and often the brawn behind all of our fundraisers. So this is our first fundraiser of the year. We only have 2 every year. So we do 2 fundraisers every year. This is our first one. Our spring fundraiser is short and sweet, 2 days. 2 days, $60,000. Our hope is to raise that money so that we can keep on supporting families who are coming to us. For reference, Rachel, last year we had how many families? New families come through our door?
755.
755 brand new families in 2021. Okay, so let me put that in perspective. In 2020, we had how many?
264.
264 in 2020.
Yeah. Or 364. Yeah.
And 755.
Yep. I mean, it's a huge increase. And just the first few months of this year so far, I was looking earlier today actually, and we've had 161 families in just those first 3 months of the year so far, new families. So add that to the 755, and that's, it's just continuing and continuing, and it will keep growing. I mean, we families need support all over the U.S., outside the U.S. We've got people from all over, almost every single state at this point, who are coming to us for support, and it's just going to keep getting bigger as things
are
the way they are.
Yeah. That's the funny thing too about this moment, politically speaking. So our fundraiser started, and of course everyone is, for good reason, donating to health initiatives because of the leaked news out of the Supreme Court. So it's rough. We feel a little, ooh, ouch. No hard feelings there. And at the same time, all those laws and all the other laws that are that are happening across the United States mean that I can't imagine how we aren't going to have a huge influx of new families because of it. And then, so at this moment, we're not at the tail end of what's happening politically in this country. We're still on the on-ramp, unfortunately. And it is a marathon. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I wish that it were. I wish that we were halfway through, but it's just not. Aiden, a few years ago, so back when you were still full-time in Washington State, you participated in the making of the documentary, The Most Dangerous Year. It's a documentary made by a good friend of ours, Vlada Knowlton, and you were instrumental in getting that documentary started. And there's a scene in the beginning where you're talking about what was happening politically in the world. It was right after marriage equality. Do you remember that? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I just prelude to the whole impetus was not hey, let's start a documentary. It was interesting. I just said, Vlada, I don't know what to do here. History is happening all around me. And there had been another documentary film person in our sphere that was trying to get something going. And I just felt like, get your camera out, damn it, because it's happening. It's happening right now and you're not seeing it. That's how I felt. And so I was bouncing these thoughts off of Vlada because I knew that she was a filmmaker. And she said, well, look, I'm happy to show up and capture some footage for you. And you can, at least you'll have it, right? At some point, you might be able to do something with that. And so I said, fantastic, that would be great. And she showed up with me, I want to say maybe the next day, maybe not. But anyways, very short time after, to the meeting with that really pivotal work with the one school district, Snohomish School District, that was definitely had hit the news and was causing some significant upheaval in that community and across the state. And so she showed up to that first meeting where we just talked about things. And then Vlada drops me a note the next day and wants me to get together for coffee. So I joined her and she goes, I'm all in if you'll have me. I would like to step in and do this. Yeah. We have a selfie from that day. And so, yeah, the little did we all know at the time what all was going to bubble up. And Vlada did a great job of just following the energy, following the action, talking to various folks who were willing to contribute. Some may be regretting their participation or not, I don't know. But she did a fantastic job. But you were about to say something, Nikki.
Well, I was thinking about the situation that was going on. I had multiple questions like wanting to pop out. One was that the situation, please correct me and fill in the details here. We had seen the passage of marriage equality. It had swept across the land. And all of the groups that had been fighting for it, I don't remember how you put it. There's actually footage in the film where it was like they suddenly, it was like the dog that didn't catch the car, and now it's like I'm still running. I don't know what to do with this energy, and do you remember that quote?
Yes, I do. So if we think about the intense amount of energy, strategizing, dollars, all of that has gone or come from folks who are not our allies, who are not our supporters, who just really would love to, number one, absolutely not have any type of marriage equality occur. They had their sights set on that, and the Supreme Court weighed in and said, well, we find that to be discriminatory. And so that marriage equality was then the law of the land across the nation. And I felt like, oh shit, is there a beep on this?
Oops.
You know, where are they going to direct their energy? And boy, oh boy, are we feeling that now. And I felt like, while it's never been a cakewalk to be a trans person, it's a dangerous path. It's fraught with so many complexities and so many difficulties and so many dangers. And I gotta say that it's been, in some respects, felt a little safer to not have the spotlight on trans people, and marriage equality did something in that. Like, okay, they're not gunning for this because that's, if I'm thinking about that mindset and what they're up to, that's a stepping back, retreating, re-strategizing. But in the meantime, we've got another segment of this population we can go after. And if you think about it, oh gosh, Charlie will probably be better. Any of you might be better at remembering what year this was, but the, dang it, I can't even remember what it's called now, but the LGBT inclusion in
You're talking ENDA?
Yes, Employment Non-Discrimination Act.
Thank you. 2007.
2007. So there was discussion at the time, hey, look, if we take the T out of it, how's that going to go? A little straw poll of the congressional members. And it was a lot more hopeful that it could pass, that ENDA could pass. Yeah. And so there was discussion amongst the internal strategizers. Do we take that out? Yeah. So
and they did, and it still failed.
Yeah.
That was kind of the kicker, was basically all these LGBTQ organizations said, you know what, if we don't include trans people, then this is going to pass. And they didn't include us. They split it into two bills, and it still didn't pass, which I think really illustrated the need for our community's inclusion. And all of this stuff is wrapped up. So Aiden, you're touching on something that we've been talking about a little bit, which is, so when marriage equality happened, it pretty much marked this passage in time wherein, so everyone supports gay and lesbian and maybe bisexual people. Yeah, maybe, right? Because it was still 2015, and now it's still 2022, and here we are, but same place. Anyway, then we sort of were talking today about where we are legislatively for trans youth and trans people in general, and I was talking about how basically we were all talking about how we had all these bathroom bills, and then the public outcry was so noisy that governors started to have to not let them pass, and have to even some governors whose parties had wanted to restrict trans people's usage in bathrooms had to veto these. I don't know the language here, but they wouldn't. But it didn't become law because they realized how unpopular it was. Sports tournaments were pulling out of states, and so they said, okay. So then all these people pulled back because all these bathroom bills were all made by the same people. I mean, there are typos that are in bills across states. I mean, they're truly copied and pasted. They're making a lot of noise pretending like people don't support trans people, but it's just that they're making a lot of noise. It's not the majority of people. And so, right, it's like as trans people have become more loud and joyous, then there's this pushback because they see us as easy scapegoats. So they realized that the bathroom bills didn't work, so they pulled back, and then they found their new footing in all of the awful pieces of legislation that are going around the country right now. So yeah, you're right. It's been an interesting, and I'm actually curious from your perspective too, because you're very interested or very involved in media, and you've done things, Aiden. And so I would love to, because we were talking. I said I was going to stop saying that, but we were talking recently about how it used to be that every piece of media about trans people was very sad. And highlighting just sort of this perceived misery of trans people. But now that people are able to have social media accounts, and just there are more filmmakers out there, that narrative is really changing. And I'm curious, if you what your thoughts are on that, and if you've experienced that personally in like interviews or things that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely one interview comes to mind immediately, and I think it was maybe NPR story. The interviewer wanted to. We chatted about a number of things and the work that we do and the support of the families and their children and all of that. And she says, well, just to let you know, I'm going to be talking to so-and-so and so-and-so because we want to get both sides of the story. And I will never forget it because that just completely electrified every cell in my body. And I said, I wonder, can I talk to you a little bit about this? And we had another 45 minutes of conversation about the framing it of framing this other perspective as both sides of the story, as if they are equal, as if they're equal and balanced in a debate. I mean, it's one of the things that I think is a huge ill of our nation as a whole, is to put things only in these very simplistic contexts. And so I got to talk with her about what that means if you share this one person's perspective who is already on the outs with their own peers,
right,
in that professional realm over time. Maybe their perspective was applicable 30 years ago, but we've learned a lot, and today, no, not so much, and all of that. And believe it or not, a reporter expressed gratitude and thanks for giving her that perspective because she hadn't thought about it before. Yeah. So I think that's really powerful. And the other thing too about any of these conversations bring in a million thoughts, but thinking about this work with the families and their kids, you can sit with any of us and decide what you want about trans people, about parents of trans people, about non-binary people, and you can decide who we are. And that can be a pretty ugly decision, ugly representation. And it's easier to do that with us as adults, one, because you don't know us, and two, because stuff can stick, right? If somebody says, yeah, those trans people, sexual deviants, yeah, whatever those representations are. But when you look at a child, all of a sudden, not so easy. We inherently believe in the purity and innocence of children. That's why they can touch our hearts. And that's why, I don't know, Barbara Walters, doing her interview back however many years ago, she said the most powerful and impactful story of her life was sharing the experiences of these trans children that she interviewed. So, I mean, joy, we're talking about joy being, connected with defiance and fierceness and all of dastardliness and all of that. But let's talk about joy as something so freaking powerful. And that's one of the things that has helped me in this work, is to know that I was looking through some old emails and stuff, and I had mentioned to somebody, I think I could just roll over in bed and change the world because of where we are at this moment in time and how important and how impactful this work is. It was so lovely to go back and read that because I got to remind myself, Aiden, you can roll over in bed and change the world. And so can any and every one of us, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's in bigger ways, it's really profound. So yeah, I don't know. How's that?
Yeah, I have 100 things I want to say to that, but the first thing I want to say is that this is a fundraiser, and I think you just led me into like a perfect, like, what do you call it when you're playing sports ball and you pass it to somebody else and then they make it? Assist. You're giving me a really good assist right now. So I think because that was
we know the sports.
What did you say?
I said we know the sports.
Yes.
I
Yes.
said,
Yes. Of course. Yeah, but I think that what you were saying, Aiden, about there are so many ways to be a part of this, and I think that one thing that you really touched on was sort of the heavy hand that we have right now in a way that we haven't in a lot of other times because the times are so dire. So like I think that well, okay, besides inflation, I don't know anything about inflation, but if the dollar was worth the same now and in 2007, I think a dollar to like a trans organization right now means a little bit more than I think it did back then. Besides inflation again, because I think that it is so much more important that we have organizations that focus on trans wellness and trans justice and trans community in a way that sort of like you were saying, it's always been important, but right now it is really dire. So with that, I also say that if you're watching this stream, we have so conveniently put at the bottom of the screen the link to donate, and so we also have that clickable on whatever stream you're watching this on.
Yep, it's in the chat on YouTube. It's in the chat in the comments on Facebook. So you can click on it on both of those. We do have watchers from both places, so just letting everybody know, hey, hi out there in YouTube land and Facebook land.
Yeah,
which is neat.
Yeah,
it's exciting. That's exciting. It's exciting too. Really to be involved with a group of people like this, and like it, Aiden, your vision for this organization and for the conferences and it has changed the world. It has saved thousands of lives, and I can say that without any hesitation. There's no question at all. I mean, I know absolutely that this organization saved my son's life. Like I didn't even understand how profound his depression and distress was until he had healed quite a bit from it. And it was then in looking back, it's only now, right? Looking back that I realized how bad it really was. And that he was just hanging on by a thread until he realized what was going on and could even articulate it to us, to me. And then I had to go through my own process. Like I said the stupid stuff that people say. I was like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. You that's not right. You don't know. Yeah, you're not a boy. You don't know what that means. Now I laugh about it now, but it's a process. It's finding out, then being in denial, and then feeling such deep guilt about that denial, and all of it. Have gone through all of it. But it really is incredible to meet families day after day and talk to them about their journey, and to know that in this community, people can show up as their full selves. And we encourage that at work, and we definitely encourage that in our communities, in our support groups, and amongst our volunteers. It's really special. That was something that you said, Rachel. I think it was, you've been working with us for
almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years.
Yeah, but it was right near the beginning. Right near the beginning, you were saying something along those lines, and I think you brought the entire room to tears. We were all so moved by that. Do you remember that?
Which thing was it that I said?
About being able to show up as you.
Yes, in the meeting. Oh, yeah, I used to cry, especially when I first started. I used to cry in almost every meeting because I was so grateful to be in a place where I could actually be myself. And some of my prior employment situations were abusive. Like really, like the bosses were abusive, and also I had to hide many aspects of who I was, just because I also used to live in Utah, which is a right to work state, where you can be fired at any time for anything, right to work state, non-union. And so coming here and working here and being in these meetings where people are like, how are you? And they actually want to know how you are, and they actually want to hear. And then you get to say, I'm having this and this struggle with my gender, and this is happening, and this is who I am, and have everybody accept me. I remember crying at a lot of meetings. I don't cry at quite as many meetings now that we're almost 3 years on. So that's probably good. But it was gratitude as well as just relief. And sort of how Gabriella described yesterday, a sense of peace, at being, where I could be who I was completely.
And that, it is our goal to always have that space for everyone who comes to us. So all of the families that show up in groups, in our support groups, it's our goal is to meet people exactly where they are.
We're trans heavy spaces, and so
Oh.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Oh, okay.
I did that last night, but I didn't fess up to it. So.
Oh, that's who did it.
It was my voice. I was like, where am I coming from?
I have to say that we promised a high percentage chance of cats, and there is a cat, but we can't see him. So can you just, Burton needs to be showcased a little bit. Thank you.
He doesn't look all that excited about being showcased. He's like, yeah.
I mean, cat.
Just pet me, Dad.
We'll see if any of mine show. They're probably they're not here.
He's starting the 2 hours in advance of dinner torture.
Yeah.
God.
I have to say that just because I was so busy this morning and Alex was so busy with what she was doing, we usually feed the cats at 7. And at 8:45, I was downstairs and Laurel was yelling at me, like, with this plaintive, like, yowl. And I'm like, oh, do you want a treat? You should have a treat. I'll give you a treat. And then I looked over at their food bowls and I was like, oh, no. And I asked Alex and she's like, no, I did not feed her.
Oh.
So we were horribly late this morning. So this is how much of myself I dedicate to Give Big and our spring fundraiser. Yeah, Alex just said in the YouTube chat that we got told. We so got told. We did have a question earlier from Duncan, who, thank you, Duncan, for supporting. Duncan also supported. And we've had a couple donations come through that were recurring. So thank you to everybody who's giving monthly. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Duncan said, have you been seeing changes in available support from schools and healthcare providers? So I thought that might be a really good thing to talk about because it's something that we deal with all the time. So.
Mm-hmm. I think absolutely. Watching what's happened in Seattle and the greater Puget Sound area as a result of us, our work originating there and rippling over each year and building year upon year, and return providers to the Gender Odyssey Conference to get the next layer and the next layer. The ripple effect is outrageous. The work with schools is outrageous. Instead of the, oh my gosh, I have this kid, a principal calling. We don't know what to do. This sort of desperate, please help us sound. Not happening in the same way. And yes, there are still schools that call that are reacting to a situation that's present, but more of them are being proactive and saying, gosh, we're wanting to step in. How do we do this? So I think that's really profound. And the thing I love about it, that I find great joy with, is that it tells me how it's going to go. It's going to go that way. And, some will be faster. Some states will be faster than others. And it's not going to be so much the work that we do. I think we're facilitating that for sure. But you cannot stop those young people. Sorry. It's just, if I wanted to, I couldn't. So I think that's the brilliance of the work that we get to do. It's torturous that the legislation is harming them, some of them in significant ways. But when we step back and look at that big picture, that tide is absolutely, you can't stop the tide. Try. Anyone, anywhere.
No, it's like that saying, the toothpaste is out of the tube.
I did not know there was a saying.
I didn't either, but now thinking about trying to put toothpaste back in a tube, that does not work.
Yeah.
You're right. You're
You
right.
can get a little bit back in, but what?
Right.
Not really.
Ship has sailed.
But do you want to at that point? Like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The children know.
I wanted to share a moment of joy, and if I may, share a moment of joy that comes from the pain that other people experience. Is that called sadism? Anyway, here's the deal. I know that Charlie and Rachel, those are good luck. Thank you so much. Nikki, you were talking about the journey with your child and how you felt some guilt for not getting it quick enough. Such a recurring theme with our families. Really, I'm thinking about one of the parents. I'm sitting in a room listening to her talk about how guilty she feels, how much pain she feels because she couldn't step up sooner for her kid. And her kid at the time that she was sharing this was 4.5. I'm like, you know what, Sunshine, your child is not going to remember this. So work through your guilt on your own. It's going to be fine. And I found joy even in that moment, even though I didn't, I kept it inside. It's my joy in my heart. I did my best to show up for her painfulness, but it reminded me also that her kid wasn't the youngest one, even at the time. There was a family, gosh, it's got to be at least 10 years ago. This family called and did an orientation with us. And their kid was 2.5. And they were recognizing the gender differences in their kid. And they said, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we're doing. Just all these really lovely, simple, straightforward, supportive parental actions. And I say, just, keep doing that. Call me back if you need, but you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Well, guess who I got an email from last week? We're talking same parent. That kid's in middle school now, and this parent took a moment to write and express so much gratitude and just for that really pivotal moment in their life, and their kids, I think, identifying either as non-binary or gender fluid and doing great as a middle schooler. So wow, it's ironic, and you've already mentioned this, Nikki, the changing the world. It's just really, we can roll over in bed and change the world simply because of this amazing moment in time where we exist, and we can be that voice that helps somebody. It's just a little nudge, like it's okay to be supportive, because in the past that didn't exist. That's like, oh no, you got to work that out of your kids somehow. Get that, make that go away. That is the primary difference that exists today compared to yesterday. Is that we're deciding it might be reasonable to support these kids.
Yeah. I have to say too, and I may be biased, and I will not fight if someone says, I think you're biased. Could be. But I feel like watching these kiddos when first meeting them, when they're first proclaiming who they are and finding the words to say and declare who they actually are. From that moment to a year or two later, when they are fully embodying themselves and fully expressing themselves for who they actually are and not who other people are trying to tell them they are, but who they actually are, they're just more, I don't know, beautiful, alive, vivacious. I'm not even sure I have the full words, but each of you have seen it. You have got to have seen it when you meet them before, like you see this cloud, the struggle, the thing, and then you see them after they're just fully stepping into themselves. It's like they're the most amazing humans to observe, just to see moving through the earth. It's like, wow. You look so you. You look so you. So amazing. You know?
That's really good. You look so you.
Yeah.
Shout out to Simon there.
Simon.
Oh, yeah,
Simon was always cute. His entire life. He has been like, ooh, you're so cute. So.
You're going to pay for that, I can tell.
I do have to say definitely, even in the few years that I've been here, watching kids grow, watching parents learn, and just being able to see that in over 3 years has been, we talk about filling cups, and like the game night that we do on Discord with mostly middle schoolers, the hang time that we do where we play Jackbox with a bunch of kids, like all of that, it's the reason we do what we do, and it helps us realize like we're creating the space, and it's absolutely wonderful for them, and it's wonderful for me too, and they get to see me as a gray-haired non-binary person, which you don't always get to see that out there, and I get to interact with them in the Discord, and it's just I love being able to do that and be somebody for them that I definitely didn't have. So
Isn't it crazy? Like, I'm an elder,
right. And I have to give a shout out to Julio there. Jules Z, my friend, is in the chat there on Facebook, the comments. We have been friends since 5th grade.
Oh, man.
And that is like 30, 31, 35 years, something. Anyway, it's a lot of years. No, actually 37. We've been friends for 37 years. Yeah. And she's out there saying that we look amazing, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I did promise BB-8 for her though, so I'll bring BB-8 back. Julio, here's BB-8.
So I want to just remind folks that this is a fundraiser. So this is one of 2 fundraisers we do every year. Our second one isn't until the end of the year. And for reference, we have a lot of amazing programs, and our programs are growing all the time. Some of my favorite parent programs include our Latinx families, which are conducted. Those groups are once a month. It's for families who are Latinx. And we have an English speaker and a Spanish speaker facilitating those groups all the time. So folks can, unfortunately, we don't have a Portuguese speaker, but we've got the English and the Spanish. So that's one of my favorites. I also really love Thriving on 2 Spectrums. That is a group that is for families who have children who are both gender diverse and neurodiverse. So autism or any other neurodiversity, there are some very particular challenges that those families find themselves up against, and they find a lot of commonalities in their stories. So that's one of my favorites. I really love that last year on the youth side, we started the Trans Femme Society. it was a space that was missing in our groups, that for trans femme people to be together, youth. And that's been going really well. It's been really exciting. And the other thing I really, really love is the game nights. I think that the game nights they started out as being part of the Thriving on Two Spectrums, because what we were finding was that the youth in those families, the neurodiverse youth, it's not their gig to sit around in a circle and look at each other and talk. Like, not doing that. But what was really got them coming back over and over and over was being in space together and playing games. Maybe it was a video game, maybe it was a role-playing game, maybe it was coloring, just anything really, an activity that they could do together. And the conversation very naturally landed on gender stuff, as well as Star Wars stuff, as well as Zelda stuff. So, but now Hang Time is online, and it's very different now. Rachel, you do Hang Time sometimes.
I do, and what I find really interesting is the difference between Hang Time and the game nights we do on the Discord, because we have. In Hang Time, it started out, like you said, as a program through Thriving on Two Spectrums. And it's pretty much all the youth communicate in the chat. They rarely say anything. There are a lot of youth who will come and they'll join, and they don't actually play the Jackbox. They just watch everybody else, which, when we're open to whatever anybody wants to do. I mean, that's what that space is for, is for everybody to just hang out, be yourself, do what you want to do. And when we run the game nights on Discord, it's in the voice channel that we run it, and then we usually have Play Among Us, or sometimes Jackbox, or Garlic Phone, which I like to refer to as Garlic Phone, which then we all post memes about garlic. But it is raucous. Like the difference between the two, there's just like laughter and people like giggling, and the best is when we're playing Among Us and Simon's playing, and he makes the funniest noises when you murder him. I'm sorry, it's in the game you murder people, and he really, like, he'll make. I gotta record him sometime, because everybody starts laughing, and then some of the kids use voice changers, and there's memes going on in the channel that's associated with it, and it's hilarious in a different way. I love both of them for different reasons, but it's just interesting to me, the difference. And I love being in those spaces. It's harder, I think, for especially 10, 11, 12, up to like 15-year-olds to tell you that they're grateful. Like, they don't come up and say, I am grateful for this space because I get to be myself. Like, they don't necessarily do that. But you can hear the happiness and the joy and the peace in their voice as they are in a space that they know is okay for them to be in. And every time, if they can't figure out how to change their name and their pronoun, because a lot of them join with their parents' account, right? So it'll have like their mom's name on there when they join the game. I'll change it for them, and I ask them, what pronouns do you want for this time? What name do you want? And that's just so affirming to them as well. I mean, it's great to be able to be in that environment. I love it.
Yeah, I think my son went to Gender Odyssey one year as Chanticleer, which is a very, very old English name. And it's like, he's trying it out. See how didn't keep it past Gender Odyssey, but that was good. Another really great program that we started, I think in 2021, I can't remember, A Dad's Place. And you co-facilitate that pretty often. Mm-hmm. And that space has become a pretty hopping space. Like there are a lot of dads that show up.
Yeah. I was actually just chatting with somebody today about that very space, because he's somebody that we have worked with peripherally in our organizational work, and he and I were just catching up. But it turns out that his wife has somebody in the family that's non-binary, and so his wife's father is struggling. And so we got to talk about that very aspect, and we generalize a little bit when we talk about the experience of dads, because it's not exclusive to them. But dads might express themselves a little differently. And well, especially they do when they're in a room with only other fathers. And it's really intense. When I think about the conference and those sessions that were there, sometimes a spouse would call and say, there's no way my husband is going to go to this event, but I'm going to try to talk him into one workshop. Can we register him for one? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And they get in that room, and I mean, talk about a documentary, be, violating privacy. We wouldn't do that. But nevertheless, you're talking some of the most profound experiences, and the things that they share, and the way that they love and support each other is brilliant. It is brilliant. And, they're the same folks that would cringe if you called it a support group. But nevertheless, the way they love and support each other is pretty profound. And what we've seen over and over and over is that they step into that space, and that's the turning point. Let's see. Oh my gosh. And I conveniently happen to have a brief anecdote for you all on that. I was
wow. What are the odds?
The old I have a folder that I call good stuff. And so I put different thoughts that people send in over the years. I popped that in there, and a young person wrote in and said, last year when I was 11, the counselor suggested my family attend the conference in Seattle for families with transgender and non-binary kids called Gender Odyssey. I attended several teen workshops with my mom. My dad went to mostly dads groups. That weekend, I decided to transition and begin living as a girl full time. My dad was transformed at Gender Odyssey by the information he learned and the other parents. He was so affected that now he is one of my greatest supporters. Yaha. So that's, and speaking of how when we seek to provide support, it's to meet, we hear it all the time, right? We meet them where they are. Because you don't know, you meet them where they are, and then 24 hours later, they are light years ahead. In a ways that they wouldn't be if we tried to, coax them into something different.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that is one of the. I think that's one of the reasons that are the families who do come and work with us and continue to be part of our community. Part of the reason for that is because we don't have a checklist for them. There's no prescription. We're not prescriptive. We don't tell them how to do something or why they should, or nobody gets shamed. We don't allow people to be shamed for having feelings. And I'm not saying that's an easy space to be in, when, especially from our perspectives, the people in this space right now, it would be easy to feel short-tempered or to feel aggravated when someone shows up and says, I don't like it and I'm not going to do it. And it would be easy to be snide and snippy and even make fun of them, right? Because it, for us, we're past that point, so it would be so easy just to make fun of them. But that's not the point, right? And we as an organization have been able to create this space really for parents to come in and truly feel what they feel and not be turned away, not be chastised, not be made fun of, but to say, yeah, you're feeling it. You're not the only one, and you're not the first one to feel that way. And the truth is, like you're saying, Aiden, it doesn't take, sometimes it just takes 2 hours and a parent feels completely transformed from maybe feeling a lot of fear or a lot of anger. And 2 hours later, just being in that shared space with other families who are going through, have been through, are somewhere on a similar journey, that they find that they're ready to try something different. It's transformative. It really is.
I have to say that, like, one of the things, and I'm allowed to say this because I just got here. I only started working for Trans Families a couple of weeks ago, and so as we've prepared for this very, very important spring fundraiser, I've been thinking a lot about why it is truly so important that people donate to trans families. And you all, I keep trying to jump in to say this, and then you keep underscoring my point, because the fact that trans families isn't prescriptive to folks means that everyone gets such a level of individual care, and trans families is truly responding to what people need. Like you just listed, groups and why we needed them, and then why we created them, and then not only just topic based, but then what was the here it is. 755 new families came to trans families last year, and it's you just keep underscoring how important it is that folks donate and that we keep going, because the community, because you also have been talking so much about like how people you get to watch youth transform, and I also have seen youth transform. And one thing that we all have in common is that we're not watching these youth as like they're like aunts or uncles or other people in their lives. We're looking at them as they like form community with other people. Like we're never really seeing them solo in a lot of ways. We're just seeing them. We're seeing this like lovely blob of like trans joy in youth, and it is that community that brings people together, and that you get to see that transformation. Oh, you're on mute, but I'll bet that was really good, whatever you just said.
I said glob of trans joy.
Yeah, isn't that good? That's a good one. Yeah, and so I would like truly say, well, first of all, we've had like a number of donations come through this stream, and so like thank you so much for folks that are donating. But I would also say, it's no secret that there's a lot of legislation going on around the country, against especially trans youth. And maybe if you have friends that live in states that's not happening, or maybe even people that live in those states that have been thinking, that you've been seeing, sort of like wondering how they can help support the fight. This is a great time to text them, and conveniently, it's a really, really easy URL. So if you have already donated, which thank you, I know we'll have, and you wanna see how far we can get with our poll, this would be a great time to text some folks. So yeah, but thank you so much for folks that have been donating. I have noticed that our numbers have been going up, but
Yeah.
Charlie,
I figuring out how to ask for funds has not been my forte. It was something that I was very intimidated by and frightened by, to the point of, like I'd rather die than do that. And at some point in the, it's been at least 10 years now, in a group one day, I just opened my mouth and I had all of this stuff come pouring out that I had not planned to say at all. And just talking about how amazing the work is and was, and it was overwhelming, and figuring out how to keep up and how to keep going was really on my mind. And this group of parents just picked me up and loved me. They were so amazing. And I'll never forget one of them leaning in and said, Aiden, you have to ask us for money. We want to give. Give us a way to do this.
Yeah.
It was a life-changing moment because I didn't know, I didn't know. I did not grow up in any type of philanthropic environment, philanthropic. I can't even say the word. So, understanding that was a bit of a mystery to me. And wow, what a gift. What a gift. And if I can share another moment too, somewhere along the way, I can't remember what year it was, 2006 or so, really pivotal time. Our organization has met with many crossroads where how it's going to continue is up in the air. And we got a donation, and it was tens of thousands of dollars, Well, it was $37,000 to be exact, because I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And we'd never had anything like that before. And my first thought, I was working closely with this man named Bo, really wonderful, beautiful soul. And my first, when he told me about it, my first words out of my mouth was, can we give it back? Because I didn't have any way to receive it. Like, how does this happen? Getting emotional just thinking about it. Such an amazing time. And he wrote me back. My friend Bo wrote me a note about it. And if you'll bear with me while I read it, he says, I call these things shatterings, and he has that in quotes. It disorients us. It dissolves us. It rearranges the furniture and how we understand our world. I call it seeing the face of God. The veil that separates us from, quote, behind the scenes, unquote, lifts us in such a way we catch a glimpse of the real power, God, whatever you want to call it. I am familiar with this place. And he says, fortunately and unfortunately, in one sense, it ruins you. You can never go back. And yet you are in strange, uncharted territory. It's terrifying on one level, which is what happened to me with that check. It was terrifying to me, even if it was wanted on another level. It is also silent. There is awe. The core of it is unspeakable. Words fail, which is appropriate. And as far as I've learned, appreciation, gratitude, respect, and silence are the only appropriate, fitting responses. And that's why this whole conversation about joy, oh my gosh, joy I tend to think of as being a lighthearted, I feel like skipping today moment. And it is so much more than that. It is a shattering. It's disorienting. It is life-changing, and you never get to go back. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And I'm just so what? I don't even have a word for it. Humbled and honored and pleased to call the work that we do, to call it joyous.
Wow. I hate that I'm even going to say anything after that, because I think with the movie, that would be the end. I mean, that's the closer. That was really, really beautiful. And I think one thing that you touched on that I'm curious if this is what you're referring to, because I have in my life as a trans person said to people, you have the conversation sometimes with your friends, and you're like, why does anyone care? Why does anyone care that I'm trans? And like, Do I care why I'm trans? No, because all I care is that I am so much happier. And I truly don't care why. I don't, it doesn't matter to me. I am so much happier now that I can like live my life in the most authentic way. And it feels sort of like that shattering, is that what sort of you're referring to? That's so interesting.
Yeah, because you, Charlie, for other people, you inspire a shattering in them. It disorients them. It dissolves them. You know, all of those things that Bo said. And for everyone whose life you touch, they never get to go back. They have to reorder the world and incorporate that. And that is why, if we're wondering why there's so much anti-trans whatever legislation and all of that, it's because it's frightening.
Yep.
It's not recognized yet as the gift that it is.
Yeah.
It's a way to go.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I hate that we're only doing 3 of these. I don't care if anyone's watching. I'm having such a good time.
We'll do more. There'll be more. Also, I have fulfilled my duty.
Oh, there's
Here's
a cat.
Yeah.
Nice.
This is Selena.
100%.
Now she's leaving.
You said her name. She's like, I'm out.
Like, nope, that's it.
Thank you so much for reading that, Aiden. I missed, I mean, obviously I was having a little side conversation there, so I missed the after debrief there, but
yeah.
That is an amazing letter. That is an amazing letter. And yeah, I am grateful that you kept it. I am grateful to have been able to listen to that. That is, yeah.
Yeah, I wish Bo was still around. He actually passed away a number of years ago, because he would be right here in the midst. Brilliant, beautiful human.
It's I don't know how many people are watching. We have a couple. Is it Julesy? Julesy, is that how their name is pronounced on Facebook? It's really fun seeing people's responses. There were Julesy especially was really moved by that letter, and like immediately was posting comments because they were so moved by it. And it does in a way feel like trans families is in the business of shattering perspectives, and then helping people put their new perspective back together.
Mm-hmm.
In their way, not the way we insist it be, but in their way, which is, yeah, that is profound. Hi, Julesy. I am being summoned, and I think that we are at the end of we're close to the end. So but I want to, I just want to say that I'm so grateful to have been here tonight, and I enjoyed it so much. I was so tired at the beginning, and I thought, I don't know how I'm going to summon the energy to be at all interesting or entertaining. I hope that I was able to do a little bit of that, but I definitely enjoyed hearing everything, all the stories, all the ideas and the thoughts. It's been really, really a pleasure. And please, if you are listening, we do need your help. We do need your help, because as I mentioned earlier, the things that are happening right now, this is the on-ramp. We have a lot of space ahead of us before the government, the politicians, the ne'er-do-wells, before they decide to turn their focus on something else. That's a ways off. That's not to say that there isn't a lot of good stuff about to happen amongst us and between us, and yeah, the toothpaste is out of the tube. The kids know that there's more to life than being this or that, and now that they know, it's going to be really difficult to convince them to go back. You can have this box or this box. that was never true. That was never accurate for human beings. We've always been much more than that. And thankfully we finally came to a place in our society that we can recognize it out loud without fear, without as much fear. There's still some places. There's still some times of fear for sure. And it would be lying to say that there wasn't, but there's a lot more opportunity these days to see the euphoria of living fully who you are. And that's really exciting. That's really exciting. So please, if you're listening, help us out. The fundraiser ends tonight. We're shooting for $60,000. Do we have an update? Is that the update? I have to get really close to see it because my glasses don't work.
So, two things. First of all, I promised Chewbacca. So I have to. Chewbacca has crossbow action.
Okay.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
So I just needed to share Chewbacca. So Chewbacca is going to give us the update.
Thanks, Chewie.
I know. It's
Could
great.
someone translate, please?
Where's Han Solo?
The total is right now 27,217. So thank you to everyone who's donated throughout the stream. Really, thank you for helping. And
Awesome.
many of you have been giving monthly, and that's wonderful because it helps sustain us throughout the whole year. And so that is a beautiful gift. Thank you.
We have a new name for our monthly donors.
Oh,
don't we?
well, it was the one that I thought of. Nikki and I were just sitting there, and I said, "Well, it should be something like blah blah blah," and I was like, that just kind of rolled off my tongue. And anyway, we thought that a name for our monthly donors could be Lamplighters. Our special group of Lamplighters.
So we'll get to have an inaugural group of lamplighters, which would be really
Yes, you help shine a light. So thank you to all the new Lamplighters out there.
Thank you.
So seriously, if you could like send this around to folks, truly, even if you were just to post this, like a screenshot of what's happening here or the donation page on your Instagram, and just ask folks to donate, that would be better than even sharing anything of ours, because people, your friends, love and trust you, and we know that you're all. We're just huge fans of all of you, and so thank you so much for all the work you do. And that would be
Julie wants me to tell about her middle name. I gave Julie her middle name.
Aw.
Yes.
Hi, Nikki.
Bye, Nikki.
We need to. Julie didn't have a middle name, and so I gave her the middle name Blah, and so
Blah?
her name is Julie Blah. Yeah,
Nice.
Blah.
BLAH?
Yes.
Blah. Blah, blah, blah. Nice.
Yep. That's her middle name.
That's awesome. Names are a weird thing. I gotta say.
I know.
Hey, you know what? I wanted to go back to something Nikki said, but even though she's not here, about
we can talk behind her back about it.
That's right. She mentioned something about politicians and legislative efforts and stuff like that. But speaking of a moment of joy, even though big picture is not as pretty, but this moment of joy of looking at a letter that the governor of Utah wrote when he vetoed the anti-trans legislation that came to his desk. His veto ultimately got overridden.
Yeah, I was going to say it got overridden,
but still, the fact that this is in print, black and white, for me and anyone else to read is so powerful and speaks to what I absolutely 100% believe is the temporariness of what we're experiencing. But one of the things he said is, he says, I must admit I'm not an expert. I struggle to understand so much of it, and the science is conflicting. When in doubt, however, I always try to err on the side of kindness, mercy, and compassion. I also try to get proximate, and I am learning so much from our transgender community. They are great kids who face enormous struggles. Here are the numbers that have most impacted my decision: 75,000, 4, 1, 86, and 56. So he goes on to explain these numbers. 75,000 high school kids participating in high school sports in Utah. 4 transgender kids playing high school sports in Utah. 1 transgender student playing girls' sports. And then 86% of trans youth report suicidality, and 56% of youth have attempted suicide. 4 kids and only 1 of them playing girls' sports. That's what all of this is about. 4 kids who aren't dominating or winning trophies or taking scholarships. 4 kids who are just trying to find some friends and feel like they are part of something. 4 kids trying to get through each day. Rarely has so much fear and anger been directed at so few. I don't understand what they are going through or why they feel the way they do, but I want them to live. Profound. Somebody who's listening, learning, listening with his heart, and recognizing that these children are just wanting a place. And that providing a place means we save their lives. So, a Mormon governor in Utah. All right, then. Those who are.
And he got a lot of crap for that.
I imagine.
Flack. I will say flack. He received a lot of flack for that. And in fact, a lot of people, people in Utah, other Congress people asked that he step down for that.
Isn't that heartbreaking?
Yeah.
I don't know how you argue with that. How you argue with a heartfelt commentary like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sadness is that they overrode the veto, and that one kid can't play. So, because that particular law, I believe, specifically targeted girls, trans girls, and that's why it boiled down to one. We're making this entire law to target this one kid.
Yep. And I don't know how this one kid, or all 4 or 5 trans kids, however many there are, right? I don't know how they're going to navigate their lives. But if I'm that one trans girl getting kicked out of sports, I'm taking this letter with me in the rest of my life. That somebody was brave enough to stand up for me, and that, I don't know what the price tag will be to this man's political career, but he recognizes that even the letter that he wrote could cost him deeply. So that's the kind of courage and encouragement that I hope gets in front of these young people also, so they can recognize that it's a moment in time. It's not about them, because that's really clear.
Yeah.
That's really clear.
Well, and I wanted to share, so we sent out a survey collecting some of the moments of joy from our families. And one of the families wrote, the question was, what has happened for you and your family in the last year that brought you joy? And one of the families wrote in and said, our daughter has been able to transition over the last year with the full support of her family, friends, school, and access to gender affirming care. And that's wonderful. It should be what every trans kid has. And I'm so happy for this family that they were able to do that. Obviously, there are a lot of families that can't, that aren't, or that where it's dangerous, or where, they have to worry about it. I have to say that I'm not ever particularly looking forward to going into my neighboring state of Idaho with my kid, because what we're doing with our kid is considered child abuse. So
Mhm.
you have to be aware of how things are, even though I'm in Oregon. Stepping over one state, and then everything will change. And I wanted to share that particular moment of joy because it's what everybody should have. Absolutely. Also, they mentioned that one of their favorite moments of joy from the media was an out and proud trans woman kicking some serious ass on Jeopardy.
Yes,
So that's also
it is my favorite game show ever.
it's some good stuff.
I think one thing too, that while we're sort of talking about this topic of like trans youth are being the targets of legislation right now, I feel like I just want to underscore the fact that like this is so not about us, and that it is truly about people trying to fire up a base and polling, and realizing that these people are finding joy in something that sort of breaks apart the structures that they've built, and so they're losing power. So like I know that that's like not exactly something that you explained to like, you know, an elementary schooler, but I just think it's really, really important to keep that in your, like, that doesn't minimize damage, right? But for me, that really helps me to feel a little bit more grounded and reminding myself that like, no, we are on the right side of justice. We are just, for whatever reasons, the political pawn at this very moment. Here are some of the reasons. But, you know, I have a beautiful trans community. You know, I have a trans group chat with like 8 other people that we started right around when the pandemic started. And it keeps me so sane. And so sometimes we'll like text each other. Someone gets misgendered at work, you know, somebody else's mom is being kind of weird about, you know, meeting them for it to get, you know what I mean? Like I just find so much joy and support and solace in community, and remind myself that this community that is fighting against us is really not as big as they're making it seem, and that we actually have so many more friends. But a lot of people find that trans justice feels so implicit, they don't see a reason to just post about it on their Facebook for no reason. They, you know, they support trans people, they don't really know how to show it. And so I really want to underscore that we have a lot of friends, and that the minority is making a lot of noise right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually have speaking of joy and community, I have a community that I'm in that's non-binary people all over the world. And there are like people from France and from the UK, from Brazil, all like Sweden or Norway. Like we've just got people from all over the world in this community of non-binary people. And so we actually, because of all the different languages people speak and all the different kinds of interactions, we actually get to talk about things like, you know, the fact that in many languages that are not English, everything's gendered. Every word is gendered. And people, especially like in France, some of my friends in France are trying to create a non-binary pronoun, not create, but trying to get it more common in usage. And it's really hard to deal with that mindset when everything has a gender and people are like, well, how can you not have a gender? Because everything has one. And looking at things from that perspective, but also being able to go in there and talk about what's happening here and what's happening, just different things that are happening all over, and knowing that we're together and that we're a community. It's been really nice to have. It's been a wonderful community to have.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Are we done? Are we done? Is that done?
I could end with another anecdote if you want.
Yes, please. I think that would be lovely. We've got about 10 minutes. But yeah, we can be done. And
So,
Eh.
you know, so much of my work world is stepping in with adults, whether that's parents or teachers or, you know, any number of folks in various professions. Um, so it's adult conversations about all of this. And, you know, the adult conversations are very layered, very complex, very fraught with any number of emotions. And then sometimes I have the opportunity to step in with kids. So I've known this one young trans girl since she was pretty little. I don't even know how old she is now. She might be teetering on high school, but she transitioned with her classmates, but then moved away. And then she was gone for a few years, and then the family moved back to their hometown area, and then no one knew that she was trans. So by this time, I think she was in third grade. And she got to a place where she wanted to share that with her friends, and scared to death to know how to do it, if to do it, you know, what's going to happen. And so her mom brought her over, and she and I had a talk about, you know, how it might go, and, you know, what she might encounter, and, you know, what I thought I would do to help. I was invited into the classroom to talk to the kids, and I got to do that. So, you know, I always throw my own body on the line, right? As a trans person, so that if there's going to be any weirdness, you know, it can come my way. I can handle it, maybe from third graders. I don't know. But, you know, I don't have to worry about that because I've watched children over and over, and the beauty with which they step into these conversations. And so, you know, we talked about who we are on the inside versus what people see on the outside, and how hard it is when somebody might not accept us or be unkind to us because of that. And, you know, those kids are really, really right on. So then I open the conversation up to say, you know, does anybody want to talk about who they are on the inside versus what people see on the outside? And some kids had some things to say, as well as this young gal in my life. And she said, you know, she shared, you know, I'm transgender and this is what that means, and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, the kids hardly missed a beat. And, you know, one of them said, well, you know, she's my friend. She's always going to be my friend. This is not a problem. And another kid afterwards wanted to make sure, like, hey, we're having an overnight on Friday night, right? So, and even one of her friends, even beforehand, who she had told maybe the day before, she made a point, you know, these are third graders again, made a point to check in and said, how are you doing? Are you ready for tomorrow? So we did this thing. It went brilliantly, swimmingly. The kids are great. And it was at the end of the school day, so the kids left for the day. The mom had come along, and the principal was in the room, and the teacher was in the room, and I was in the room. And these two, the daughter and the mom, are sobbing in each other's arms with just relief and you know, all of that. It was so profound. And what I really love is, and Nikki was touching on this too, watching how you just watch that light come on even more so. Because this kid is now 100% her authentic self, and able to be there and be well received by her peers. So pretty awesome. And I've yet to encounter a group of kids that weren't like that. But then I had a recent opportunity to speak with children in a heart-pounding kind of way, because they're preschoolers. How do you talk to preschool kids? I don't know.
Period.
And virtually at that.
Yeah, it's
right? So I have no idea how this is going to go. And I chat with them. Who knows what I said? But I heard from a family who said, you know, we have two children in this school. One is in the preschool gang, and the other one is in the older group. I got to talk to both groups. And here's the conversation that happened at our dinner table. The kids were talking about gender, and the one kid said something about Mother Earth, and the youngest one, the preschooler, says, well, why is it Mother Earth? Why is that? And so they had a conversation. Parents, they were zero interested in having the parents contribute to this conversation. And what the two kids decided was that Earth was non-binary. Beautiful. So, oh no.
You did something right there. You got through to them somehow, right?
Well, holy moly.
Yeah.
So it's always a mystery to me, a little bit of a head shaker when people say, oh, these kids can't handle these types of conversations.
Right.
Are you kidding? There are teachers. Yep. They are the ones showing us what this world can look like.
Yeah.
Being gender inclusive. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Somehow we did not talk about genitals at all. I don't know. Somehow we managed to skirt the subject.
Gosh, how amazing.
Is skirt a gendered word? Let's talk about that.
You know what? I'll bet that there is a little bit of interesting history there, and I might look it up later.
Etymology.
Yeah.
Etymology is fun.
Yeah. Speaking of, my favorite so far is the journey of high heels.
Tell me more.
High heels, on my little research adventure, were somewhere around 300 BC, AD. I don't know which. Long time ago, in Persia. So in the area of Middle East, Iran, Iraq, etc., and we're functional. High heels help you maintain balance on a horse if you need to stand on horseback. So high heels were used by warriors, and then the journey continues from there, and how they entered into the Western European world, and how then they were adopted by women, and it was very transgressive, quite a transgressive journey. And to think that it's still transgressive now for men to put on high heels is ironic.
Because that's who used to wear them. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's the fun stuff. That's the fun stuff to, like you said, the etymology, learning the journey of a particular word or particular gendered anything.
You know what? I was really excited to learn about the origins of the kawaii style of dress. That's actually really transgressive as well. It's considered undesirable and is considered rebellious. Like there's look it up. It's really fascinating. I love it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it is. All right. One last time. You can see the link at the bottom of the screen. And we have put the link in the comments. So if you are watching, please donate if you can. If you have already donated, thank you. And please share that link. We are trying to raise $60,000 by midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a ways to go. So we would love to see your help. Please donate.
Yeah.
Share with your friends. Tell people about it. Come watch this when we're done, because you'll be able to watch it. It'll be fun.
And thank you for folks that donated during this stream. I know that a bunch of you did.
Yeah.
Because they seem to be really well timed to the beautiful words that Aiden was reading. So.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Definitely. Much. All right. Thank you for coming.
Yep.
See ya.